Hello and welcome on board Fair Isle. I'll give you a quick tour around. She's a Hans Christian 48T, built in 2000. This was hull number 24. I think they built 26 or 27. This is one of only two that has the doghouse built. She was actually commissioned in Holland and this was built there. A really good shelter inside there. She's a dry boat anyway, and centre cockpit and with hydraulic steering, so that's makes life quite easy on the wheel. Originally she was cable steering and a little bit heavy, but hydraulic steering works really well. We have a nice area after that because we have a state house below. We'll be going below in a second to see down there, but you can see we've got an area here which we fish from, and we can put seats out on here. It's a nice place to sit when you're at sea, and like all Hans Christians, lots of boxes for external storage for bits and pieces outside. If we move up forward past the doghouse, we can see we've got solar panel on here. There's quite a big array of solar panels aft. This was the first one I put on and I was quite impressed with it, 150 watts, and even with the boom shadow we get a fair bit out of that, but the one aft we get a lot more. From the mast we don't lead anything back to the cockpit. We try and do all the rope work from here, and you've got granny bars which helps working at the mast, and it means that there's not so much winching. I can pull the mainsail pretty much all the way up without any winching from there. Got the old-fashioned pin rails, and actually in the rigging we've got some baggy wrinkles. It stops the sow chafe, works very well. So at the moment we're in the Solent on the south coast of England in a place called Newtown Creek, which is lovely. We were playing with some seals earlier on paddle boards over the other side. That can be seen in episode 1 at the start of our vlog on sailingfairisle.com. So on with the tour. You can see we have this nice butterfly hatch in the centre of our coach roof. It brings a lot of light down below, a lot of ventilation. Really good feature, I think, as well as having the more modern type hatches. And we have obviously quite a long bowsprit. 2 anchors mounted permanently under the bowsprit with a double windlass. We've got 75 metres of stainless steel chain on a main anchor, 50 on the secondary, and 100 metres of road on the end of that as well, so we should be able to cope with most things from that. Hydraulics are good. It's a hydraulic bow thruster as well, which means that you don't have that problem that you get with electric ones where you can start burning things out and having thermal cutouts and things, so it's quite useful to be able to use it as much as you want. Okay, so that's everything above decks. Let's have a little look below. So you come down into the saloon. It's not huge for a boat this size. That's only because we're centre cockpit and we've got a large aft stateroom, and also because they have actually put some decent storage into this. There are cupboards everywhere, under and behind all of the sofas. There's no tanks under there. They're all nicely built into the long keel under the sole. It's important when you live on a boat to have well thought out storage, and it's a real bonus that everything's so well made. It's one of the big things about Hans Christians is there's just lots of teak, really nicely done joinery. All the cupboards have got these louvres on, so good airflow through everything, and the detailing is just great. I mean, even inside, if I bring a little bit of light in, you can see even mattresses inside for the electrics are made out of solid teak. This is something that's been worth putting in, I think. A good stand for the television, so that can move around to face wherever you want it. And when we got the telly, there was a stand with it, which I've just cut the lug off that goes into the television and bolted it on, so that when I then bring this around and push it down, I can park the television, which means that it's completely held and won't go anywhere in a seaway. So one of the things that we did change in Fair Isle was the saloon table. It had a very large, very nice teak table in here. And if you wanted to just seat 8 for dinner every night, this might be what you want, but to live on it you really need some more space than that. And in the old one you used to have to sort of try and squeeze through to get out, past the table. Now you can just laze around, which is sort of where you spend most of your time. And obviously when we do have dinner here, it's got some very nice, very easy hinges that I found that make it quite easy to clip up, and you can still then have 4 people around it for dinner. You've got your drinks cabinet, the usual things, and storage underneath. So I think it just fits in better for liveaboard to have a table like that. You notice that all the way around Fair Isle there are these bronze portholes which all open. There's 14 of them. They take a bit of cleaning, but they're great because you just get lots of fresh air. They've got bug screens that go in, and along with the butterfly hatch, which opens right up and lets loads of air in as well as light, makes the boat light and airy, and obviously tempered glass, quite small, but because of that, very strong, very safe. Moving on to the galley then, people who aren't used to boats are always shocked at how small galleys are. But I can honestly say we can cook very well in this. Struggle sometimes in that there's not a lot of space for drying when you're washing up here. Cooker's great though. It's 3 burner, force 10. It's got a grill in the oven which is really useful, and obviously it's fully gimbaled. In the corner here is a larder. Got to put an automatic light in there. I think that's really important to have good lighting, especially in the galley. So as you can see with things like the cupboards here, which can be quite dark and difficult to find things, makes it much easier once you've got the light in there. The worktops throughout the boat are granite. No need to worry about the weight in this boat. And the quality of the joinery continues with things like this nice corner cupboard. The freezer's in the corner. It's a top loader, works very well. But for a fridge really you want to be able to access it properly from the front. I've got another automatic light in here. This is just on a motion sensor. And do get yourself a little thermometer so you can just see how the fridge is doing. You have a mechanical one for the freezer. I'm not sure that that'll do so well with batteries. They both have keel coolers, which means there's a plate on the keel. Works well, very efficient here in the cold waters. We'll see what it's like in the tropics. But at least it won't put hot air into the cabin, which is a good advantage there. So onto the nav station, pretty standard. It's got a little pull-out seat here. Good switch panel, good battery monitoring as well, something that's vital for long-term cruising. Everything's nicely labelled and easy access. So that's all quite well sorted. It's fairly standard instrumentation here. Got this slightly wacky tank and tender system here which you pump up. You can switch it to whatever tank. You've got 3 fuel tanks, 2 water tanks and 2 holding tanks on here which are on different gauges. Everything else is fairly standard. Quite a small chart plotter. I haven't gone for the huge chart plotters. I don't tend to navigate from down here. I prefer to have Wi-Fi. This is linked into Wi-Fi and do it all on iPads. So I've got several of those for redundancy. Also, they can pick up the boat's system. They can overlay radar. They can overlay IAS, or you can switch to just the iPad's own navionics, which I really quite like. It's quite detailed. It's better than the version on the chart plotter, so I use this as my main version and the actual one on the ship as a backup. And I've got several of these around, so even in a thunderstorm, you know, you can put one in the oven as a Faraday cage, and you're not going to get wiped out. So really, charts are a bit redundant now for me. I have large scale charts, so I'm going to put a rack actually up here just to take a few large scale ones, because it's quite nice to sort of see in a large scale where you've gone. But nowadays, I don't think you need that, and actually that does mean that it means my chart table here can become somewhere where I just put all my bits and bobs. You can never have too many places for bits and bobs on a boat, and you don't want to have them all stuck into a cupboard somewhere, so I use this really just as overflow from the large drawers that I've got here. So let's go forehead then and have a look at the forehead cabin. This is actually my edit suite. Got it all kitted out here. There's a little fold out chair that comes out underneath, so I can lock myself away in here. Works very well. Got a little head in here which is has got a Blake's toilet in it, which is an amazing piece of kit, solid bronze. I'll show you, there's none of the push button type stuff here. You have to pump in with this one and pump out with that one. So none of your modern conveniences, but it won't go wrong in the middle of the Atlantic, which is the main thing, I think. There is a single bunk in here as well. It has a bit that pulls out, an extra bit that goes in, and they all have lee cloths, which for this one comes out from underneath and then just clips in to the roof. There's access through the forehead bulkhead into the sail locker and lots of other storage space. This cupboard here actually had a safe in it when we bought the boat. I'm not sure why anyone would want a safe at sea. There's enough places to hide valuables on board a boat, and if a pirate came aboard they'd just get you to open it anyway. But what I want to show you in here, if I get some light around there, is this teak staving, which it goes all the way down to the sole, all the way around the boat. It's important to have if you're going to be anywhere cold in the winter. some really good insulation. We don't get any condensation here and here at all because of this. If you had a steel boat, the place would be dripping. I know people in Holland that said, yeah, their clothes are always wet. But this is great. I mean, this cupboard has also got down here, you can see that, ventilation, so the hot air ventilation from this, which is on floor level around everywhere. All the cabins have the warm air vents. There's one under the chair here and then in the front heads. If you're going anywhere cold in winter, good airflow is a must have, really. Just one more thing then, as the sun goes down, I just wanted to share a tip on lighting. I'll probably make a video on this, but by way of demonstration, I've got this camera here set up for the saloon. Main sorts of problems being that these sorts of lights that you get on the saloon are sort of akin to what you'd get in a 1970s house, you know, just a light in the middle of the room. They're a bit harsh when you're living on board full time. These are good because they can go red for nighttime sailing as well. But at the moment it's not just these that are on, I've got all of my LED lighting as well on. So let's have a little look at the difference between the two. So with all the coach roof lights off, you just get a much softer feel. I've got LED bulbs in these as well, so it's not an issue with the draw, but these are also LEDs, easy to wire in. I'll probably do a video on this, as I say, as well. But it's controllable as well because you've got then the remote, so you can turn them off and on. You can have different colours if you want to, and if you really feel like it, you can go for the full Monty disco effect. Once you're tired from all the dancing, you can make your way to the bunks aft. On the way to the aft stateroom, you pass through the pilot berth here, which is quite cosy. It has lee cloths like they all do, and doors that can close both ends. We've got our bug screens in here at the moment, just for storage. And then there's my favourite bit here, which is the engine room. As you can see, I store all my tools on the doors here, so they're nice and handy to get at. And you have a nice bit of space then to come into the engine room. You can also take out the panel forward there, which is the steps, the companionway steps, and the white box there is the generator, which I'm working on actually at the moment. The hot water cylinder can be heated by an immersion or the engine, or this, which is a Webasto oil-fired heater. The gearbox has a takeoff on it for hydraulics, as we've got quite a lot of hydraulics on the boat, and that's the hydraulic fluid tank. And we have a Yanmar 110 horsepower engine. It might have been the engine room that did it for me, but really for Judy it was this room. We had looked at some of the smaller Hans Christians, the 41, the 43 with the Pullman, but this, when we saw this with the double bed that you can get into from both sides, that's what really ticked the box for Judy. It is a great room. There's lots of light in here, 2 portholes, a big hatch, and 2 dorades here, which really bring the air in quite well. Obviously lots of cupboards, hanging wardrobe, there's drawers under the bed, and lots of space for deep storage within the bed as well, which is very useful. And there's an aft heads with a separate shower, which I think is really important for liverboards. It saves getting everything wet. So that's the tour. You can follow us on our YouTube channel, or better still, on our website, where there's lots more information. Please remember to subscribe.